There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
So as we continue down this path of the car audio sessions where we're featuring a unique car audio brand each and every day, we've landed on a big one. When I say a big one, we're talking about a brand with 25 years of history and a huge catalog that's got you covered from entry level all the way to the highest end audiophile SQ type gear. We're talking about Ground Zero. Today, we've got product expert Jacob Brown in the studio with us today to talk about the line and a couple key new products that just came out and are available either now or very, very soon. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM, Ground Zero, and it starts now. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and today we are talking about Ground Zero Car Audio, a complete line. And when I say complete line, arguably one of the most complete lines out there. Literally covering everything from an entry level, just sound upgrade, some street sound. They got Pro Audio, they've got SQ, they've got a little bit of everything. And I know we're not going to be able to cover it all in one session, but for sure we're going to be talking about a couple new items that are going to definitely have your ears tuned in. Let's go ahead and invite their Canadian distributor, of course, BB Distribution, and their product trainer and manager, Mr. Justin Bond.
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
Go Oilers, sir. What's going
Go
on?
Oilers.
It's the Battle of Alberta, apparently. So for the, I mean, that's a little crazy. I can't believe it. I see you've chosen a side, though, Justin.
I have. Yeah.
And you're going to stick to it.
Yeah, pretty much. Red Deer's the fine line. You're above Red Deer, below Red Deer. So.
Fair enough. Yes. I wasn't kidding, man. I said we landed on a big one today, and I meant it. Ground Zero is no joke when it comes to the offering that they bring to the table. It's a huge catalog. We spent time kind of breaking down for the dealers to understand. But for just to kind of reset, because maybe we have some new dealers tuning in, from the BB Distribution perspective, you know, you guys got some premium brands in your lineup, of course. I'd like to hear in your words, from a strategic standpoint, how does Ground Zero fit within the BB Distribution offering?
So, I mean, we do quite a few brands, obviously, as a company. And, you know, Canada's small, right? Canada is, you know, the population of California jammed into a landmass bigger than the United States. And the problem being with that is that, you know, there's pretty much more car audio shops in California than there is in Canada. And a lot of these guys or a lot of these shops, they don't want what the next guy down the road has from us because, you know, maybe there's 3 or 4 predominant shops in a town or a city. Well, you know, competitive advantage or brand integrity, it can get, you know, really wishy-washy or the lines get muddied pretty quick. So what Ground Zero does for a dealer is it offers them the ability to run their whole store on one brand. And being that there's so many products in the lineup, it really doesn't let you, I mean, at the end of the day, no one ever wants to say no to a customer, right? But sometimes there's existential circumstances that would prevent a dealer from, oh, well, you know, I want to get this product, but I don't have access to that. Or I want to get the, you know, this product, but I don't deal with this distributor. The one thing that's unique to Ground Zero is like we're not bullshitting around when we talk about like it covers every area of the 12 volt audio market, period. So whether you're jumping into the daily listener ready to go, or you're spending the big dollars on your hi-fi system or high-end SQ in the car, or you're building one of those cars that weighs 9,000 pounds because you filled the dash with cement because it's an SPL, all of those facets, Ground Zero has a solution for, which makes it, as a dealer, really easy to grow that brand in your store because it does cater and to all corners of the market.
Now, I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're quite passionate about Ground Zero. I mean, you're passionate about all the brands and I don't want to put you in a position where it's like, oh, you like one brand more than the other. But I know, I can feel that there's a connectivity that you personally, Justin Bond, have with this brand. And I'm wondering if I'm right. And what is it so that draws you to this brand personally?
So the I guess with the brands that I talk about, and the reason that it makes it easy and stuff for what I do, and I think makes me good at what I do, is because I believe in the brands. Right? To me, this is not a brand that is just in it to be present and to make a product that they don't believe in. Ground Zero. It's kind of funny because even though we talk about it as being new, it's not new, right? It actually started. Carl, one of the owners, started a long time ago in like 1995, distributing made in United States or made in USA high excursion SPL style subwoofers. And then in 97, he brought it to the European market and it took off, right? So Ground Zero has been around for a very long time, 65 countries, over 400 SKUs. It's just newer to North America, the reintroduction of a line like this. And the thing that I like about it, the thing that makes me passionate about it is when you talk to Carl, or you talk to Diago, or you talk to Peter, or you talk to anyone involved in Ground Zero, they all have the same kind of belief. They believe in the product. It's not just about making a speaker. It's making the best. The reference series amplifiers use rhodium tipped RCAs. Okay. For what? Because of that, I'll tell you why. Because at that point, if the conductance of that metal increases by 0.01% at that level, it makes sense to do it, right? And it's things like that. That's why I became an installer, because I love to see and get in the cars and see how technology is progressing and seeing how things are getting introduced and integrated. And it's the same thing with Ground Zero and Car Audio now. We talk. You go into an installation bay now, and it's almost like a production facility, right? It's not just, I'm just putting in radios anymore. You're almost a sound engineer when you're changing the radio or doing a system in a Range Rover or a Mercedes or something, So it's the evolution of our industry is very exciting, and our industry is based on excitement. You've heard me say it 100 times.
100 times, yep.
And Ground Zero is exciting, man. Like everything about it is awesome.
So on that note, let's go on that theme of excitement. What are you most excited? We have Jacob coming on. What are you most excited to dive into today?
So we got the thin hydrogen woofer, which is like, I'm super, super stoked for. There's only 2 in production at the moment. We kind of touched on it a little bit. Andy had it when we did the motorcycle show, and he was cool enough to ship me his one of his 2.
Oh, he actually did it? Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So I got it, and I've taken it out and I've shown some dealers, and I think our market in general, I mean Car Audio as a whole, 12 volt period, has had a lack on a great space efficient high output subwoofer. And I think this thing is just going to dominate. Okay.
Well, on that note, let's bring in said expert. His name is Jacob Brown. He's the Director of Operations for Ground Zero USA. And we're super happy to have him back today because he brings a wealth of knowledge. Let's go ahead and get Jacob into the studio with us. What's going on, Jacob?
What's up, guys? Same stuff, different day. How about you?
Well, it is same stuff, but different day, different brand. And like I said in the beginning, this is a big one. We've got some exciting stuff to talk about. We've got an amped Edmonton Oiler fan here that's ready to talk about Ground Zero for the next few minutes. I'm going to start with you, Jacob. Just a real quick question. Justin did a great job. I think he covered the grounds. He gave a little bit of history of the brand. Jacob, you're well respected, very knowledgeable individual in the 12-volt industry. Yeah, I know you're making faces, but you are. I'm being honest. And speaking of honesty, I wanted to touch on something that we touched on during our live earlier the week, and that is the specifications and what's written on the boxes and the whole mantra that is what Ground Zero delivers from a performance standpoint. Can you take a moment and expand on that a little bit to set the mood?
So one of the things that we really pride ourselves on, I mean, it's this word right here. And basically the thing, when you say specs, when you say, what does the speaker do? A lot of companies will tell you in theory what it can do. A lot of companies will tell you or market you an idea. And one of the things that Ground Zero really prides themselves on is real world application. So when you look at specs, when you look at the small parameters, when you look at anything associated with a driver or with an amplifier, there is something behind it this is actually how it performs. So whether it's everything in-house Klippel tested, every amplifier gets put through its paces on Audio Precision, test equipment. When you look at some of the specs, it's real world specs. It's not, on paper theory. And that really does bring something to the table for Ground Zero, where when you look at a spec sheet or you look at a box design, this is how it works, this is what it does, and this is what you can actually expect, as opposed to another item on the market or something similar that it looks great on paper, you put it in the real world, maybe something doesn't quite match, something doesn't quite add up, but they used an industry standard thought process behind it. It's nothing against the product or what it can do, because it's exactly what it says it should be able to do. However, when you look at what it does in the real world, that's where we honestly kind of differ. Is we will sacrifice a number to say this is what you can actually expect. And for me, that's one of the biggest things, is that transparency and what the product actually does. Justin will mention things like, rhodium tipped RCAs or, utilizing a different style, circuit device or topology thought process in an amplifier. But, at the end of the day, what does it do in the real world? And that's where, that's really where Ground Zero comes to play.
There's no doubt in my mind what you just said there is a large part of the answer for my following question, and probably a big chunk of that pie. But I wanted to hear from your perspective, Jacob. There's been some growth. There's been some following with Ground Zero. We see it. I see it. It's in the media. It's in the social media, and what you guys are doing at all the shows and everything like that. So what are some of the reasons, above and beyond what Justin has mentioned, and also the transparency, as you call it, from a specification standpoint, that has led to the recent growth and the followership of this brand?
The hard part is I don't know that I can spin it or say anything that Justin didn't say almost verbatim. The creepy thing is he and I think alike. We've worked together for a long time. So, when he says something, it's something I would say. When I say something, it's something he would say. So, when you ask me a question like that, my answer is almost always going to be exactly the same. Why the growth? Excitement. It's new to market, but it's maybe not necessarily new. So a lot of companies come out with a product and, their pedigree or their personnel or something are really what grows the brand. Well, with Ground Zero, it really is the product and the fact that it's been around internationally for so long. So, when you look at our SKU count, our 65 country distribution network growing, almost every month, we look at things like, what does that do for us? So by having a international presence as strong as it is, it gives our tiny little, piece of the planet some ability to look over and say, okay, we're not just doing something new. This is well established in Europe. This is well established in Southeast Asia. Look at when you search Ground Zero on social media, you see some absolutely incredible builds with an entry level or a pro style product. So it's not just, this extremely high-end product is put into an extremely high-end build. No. It's this phenomenal product, no matter which series it is being put into phenomenal builds. They're competing in, international governing bodies. They're placing, they're winning, they're absolutely destroying it. And so that really for me is that tying everything back in. We all think US is the, a lot of us think that the US is the top tier of car audio, and really it's not. So when we look at that international presence, that entire package of what Ground Zero is, covering every product, covering almost every country, covering every customer, it's really a cool product to get excited and fall in love with.
Great. I'm excited. You've got me pumped. Give us an overview of what we're about to learn today, and then we'll get to it. What are we talking about today, Jacob?
So we're going to run through a couple of things that I know are some of Justin's kind of favorite pieces, because it's what the markets have embraced. So recently we have revamped our Iridium line almost, I don't want to say from the ground up because that's not fair, but we've basically gone through every SKU, updated it, brought it, an engineering change or a thought process change. We're going to cover some of the slim woofers. Justin had kind of mentioned the new Hydrogen Slim that is absolutely ridiculous and fun to play with, but also our Titanium Slims. And then really the one that gets me excited is, we're going to spend some time covering the Uranium speaker line, which for us was all new for 2021, almost an entire rebuild ground up, from the ground up, rethink the entire process. So it's really cool, that product line and what it brings to, this whole concept right here of what Ground Zero is. It's an entirely new engineering standpoint and just something that's really fun to play with. So I think those are, really kind of the biggest things that we're going to focus on in this conversation. Unlike some of the stuff trying to run through the entire 400 SKU.
Gotcha. We wouldn't have time to do that anyhow, but yeah, I do appreciate you guys have picked up some key exciting SKUs. Without further ado, we've got a quick video so we can get set up for this presentation. Let's roll the tape. Let's get ready for Ground Zero. All right, guys, I know we have a presentation and we're going to cover exactly what Jacob just outlined. So let's go ahead and get the presentation up. You guys have the stage. Take it away, Jacob and Justin.
Awesome. Thanks again, Ben. So, the thing with Ground Zero is, like we said, it's so multifaceted. There's over 400 SKUs split into almost 11 different product lines. So for us, normally we talk about top-down selling, and normally we when we approach something and when we're with the dealers or we're talking to a customer, we always want to start with the best. In this case, just for the presentation wise, because I don't want to take away from the more mass marketed stuff. I'm going to start with it first, and we're going to talk about that first, just so we can get its dues in and then move to the better and the best with that. What you're seeing on the screen there is pretty new. So this is brand new. This is the Iridium SPL series. Now, the thing with Iridium is that your standard kind of mass market entry into Ground Zero. This is get your feet wet. This is great for an OEM style replacement. However, they have now taken, am I saying this right, Jacob? They've taken components in the competition style or pro audio and kind of integrated into that entry level speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, when we talk about a mass market or mass value product or something along those lines, the cool thing about the Iridium line is it really covers all of the bases. It is an amazing stepping stone into every subcategory or category produced by Ground Zero. So, we've talked about Pro SQ in the past. We've talked about daily listener type builds in the past. We've talked about SQ in the past. And for me, Iridium really does. It's that bottom rung of the ladder where you start your climb. And yes, this series is the first of those transition pieces into that competition or even Pro SQ mindsets by taking a competition level tweeter, bringing it into an entry level component kit and making a competition / entry level hybrid mid bass that really allows you to apply that mentality and that thought process in a component kit into a car where you might just have a kid who wants a 15 and a vented enclosure. Well, what are you going to put in the front to keep up with that? And this is really where
that's not high dollar. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. I mean, this is not going to break the bank. This is going to be that, again, that stepping stone into the concept of competition or pro SQ.
Yeah, and so I mean that's one thing that we always talk about is when you notice the lines in Ground Zero and the way they go, they split right between your as you get higher in the rungs, they kind of become more dedicated to what they're doing. And we're starting at Iridium, which is the bottom or the biggest base of the pyramid, and then when you begin to move up, the one thing that, like we said, this is so awesome about Ground Zero is that it really does. I mean, we hear a lot of dealers talk. They say, there's too much stuff. I just want a good, better, best, right? That's what they said. I just want, give me these three options and let me run with it. And that's perfect, not a problem. But this gives us a good, better, best in so many different, in both different types of markets, whether you're going full on SQ or you're going, everyday listener, I just want a ton of jam, or you're building a crazy SPL vehicle. Iridium is going to be that baseline in almost all three of them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the cool thing too, is when we all consider good, better, best, good, better, best still has to have some sort of a pricing structure. You might have a shop that's, good is far better than somebody else's good. And we don't want to diminish the value of the product. So like you said, when we look at Iridium, it's definitely that starting branch. So this is good, but that's not to say that the next level up isn't somebody else's good.
Yes.
The difference between this good and that good is this is the one line that kind of covers that entire good. So you can use this as your stepping stone into Ground Zero. It will cover SQ Daily Listener, or Pro SQ or SQ Plus, or however you want to refer to it. And then from there starts your stepping stones or your different style ladders. So it's really a cool line that, and again, the changes aren't just limited to the new SPL series. We read the cones, we made some changes in the new tweeters. We took some thought process that we learned from a couple of different lines and kind of backwards engineered it into the Iridium and revamped it for 2022. Yeah. So again, it's not just a line that is set it and forget it. It's really something that still is ever developing. So you've got, in this line alone, you've got traditional components and coaxes. You've got slim mounted components and coaxes. You've got the new SPL series of components. And then you've got two different styles of subwoofers. So there's a new XSPL series of subwoofers that are that kind of daily listener ground pounder type build. But then there's the standard Iridium subwoofers that are going to be more of that. I want a little bit of kick. I want I
want to feel the bass
placement plus. Yeah. So again, the line really does cover everything. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a great
product line. Yeah. It's, bang for your buck. It's right where it needs to be,
Exactly.
All right. And then, so after Iridium, we're going to jump up. So we're going to jump up to titanium. Now, I absolutely love these woofers. So the titanium woofer, it's offered in two variants right now. It's this bad boy here. It's thin. It's about 3.5 inches tall, mounting depth. It comes in a 10 and a 12, and it's dual 2.0. Now, when we talked, Jacob, when you just talked, we were talking about the parameters and the information that Ground Zero provides. I urge the dealers, when they get a woofer like this, we know it's a tiny woofer. It's small, it's sealed, cool. Alberta, I got trucks. That's where it's going, right? I need to put 3 of those in a truck because I want to get the most bass. It's like, hold on, slow down, right? Yes, they're going to work in a super small airspace. But when you read that manual, so all the Ground Zero manuals when it comes to woofers, they tell you exactly, like you said, what that subwoofer can do and how to do it. They let you know. There's 4 different box diagrams that tell you exactly how to build it, everything from port length to tuning frequency. And the difference is, you give this little baby a little bit of airspace and a port, and now you have a thin woofer tuned at 33 hertz, right? Which is nuts. and they're just fantastic. It's just the titanium fins have been. I think I first heard them in that truck that Chris Pate built when we first met at SEMA. I think
Oh,
that's the first time that I heard them, and well, when we first met as before our previous working relationship. But when you started with Ground Zero, so yeah, they've been a fantastic woofer for us, and they're very exciting.
well, we really did take a lot of time to try and build an overall great slim sub. So it's not just that it's, as much low end extension as we can get in a sub, or as much output as we can get in a sub, or as much musicality as we can get in a sub. Some of those, sacrificed a little bit due to the style of the sub. But that Apache that was built by Mobile Toys was definitely one of those things that everybody got out of it and went, what subs are in there? And we're like, oh, slim tens in 0.4 cubic foot enclosures, or it was 0.4 or 0.5 net.
Yeah.
And the general consensus and the answers that we can, no, it's not. What is it? And you'd fold the seat forward and there they are. And
yeah,
you're kidding me. Where's the actual sub? Like that's just,
the
that's just
aluminum plate on the front. They're snazzy looking. You know what I mean? They're the strong logo right on the front. They've done really well for us. And yeah, just kind of opening people's eyes to another option that may not be the market dominated one is very good. I guess that's one thing that's nice about Ground Zero. We talked, being that it is new to market, like I urge dealers to step outside their comfort zone, because you will reap the rewards of it. You will be excited about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, I've followed the product line for as long as I have. Even, when I was in retail, there were still items of this product line, of this brand, that jumped out at me as, holy, that's impressive, or that's really cool, or that's different. So yeah, I mean, that's when we look again, just at something as simple as I don't want to call it an entry level slim subwoofer, but definitely a value based mindset slim sub. It impresses.
Huge performance.
And everybody takes a step back and goes, and you see the gears start turning of, well, what can I do with that in my shop?
Well, I mean, the one thing that's impressive is when you talk about slim or a thin woofer, there's this strange trend that has happened with the thin woofer where, yes, the thin woofer is thin, but it sticks out 2 inches from the top of the box, right? So it's like, at what point is it thin, right? This has a regular mounting depth in it and kind of protrusion as a regular subwoofer would have on any box. And, I put a set of these 12s in a prefab box, and I had to raise the prefab box because they're bouncing off the floor for a thin woofer, right? They're fantastic. But the next line I want to talk about is Hydrogen. Now, typically when Hydrogen first came out, Hydrogen was known for their big badass woofers. Like the lineup of Hydrogen is a ton of fun. Okay, so it's high excursion, lots of volume, very tight, very good sounding, but also has a full lineup of Class D amplifiers with it. And these amplifiers are some of the finest Class D, like everything from touch and feel to the way they're built. I have one here with me. So this is the 5-channel right here. And, everything from about the way that they're built with the all black anodized aluminum engraved top plate is fantastic. And the same thing, they fit a budget and a price, unbecoming to the performance that they give you. So that's one thing that's kind of a little bit repetitious that you'll hear me talk about when it comes to Ground Zero is when you look at the pricing as a dealer as to where the product fits. Let's say it fits in this range. Okay. Well, where it fits and where it performs are two different factors, because it may fit in your price range of here, but it probably performs in the price range here, which is something that's a huge tool for dealers, because the biggest problem we have in our industry is over-promising and under-deliver. So Ground Zero gives us a chance to over deliver on everything that you're talking about. Jacob, you want to run us through the hydrogen lineup a little quickly on the amps?
Yeah. So the cool thing is, and like you had mentioned, when you base it on their performance and what they can actually do, these are the amplifiers that I physically demo with on the display that I have in my possession. So whether it's anything from iridium to nuclear, I have listened to on these amplifiers. So yeah, I mean, we might run into situations, the 4-channel is not gobs of power. But there's a 2-channel that's really cool for a phenomenal set of passive front two-way components. 2 mono blocks of 600 and 1,000 watt RMS at 1 ohm. The 5-channel is a pretty good amount of power, 4x75 plus 500 by 1 at 1 ohm on the sub out. So when we look at versatility and performance and price point, they all come into play on this line. And again, this isn't a series of amplifiers that was designed to run with hydrogen components and hydrogen subs. This can be, worked down into a line. The 5-channel being super versatile, could run titanium, could run radioactive, could run iridium, but you can take it a step up and move it into the hydrogen, or move up into the uranium components, or even utilize the new hydrogen 6.5-inch components on this. So when we looked at the product line, when we really started to get a feel for what it is, it really opened our eyes to its versatility. So, again, 5 SKUs covers a lot of bases. And if I were a retailer coming into the line for the first time, this is definitely the series of amplifiers that I would first utilize to get my feet wet. So it's really cool with that regard that it is so versatile.
Yeah, totally. All right, moving on. So I don't happen to have any of these yet. I know they are shortly available. Just at this, I'm sorry, everyone watching, that this is not normally my style, just to run through a presentation or a PowerPoint. I just don't happen to have these in hand. But this is the new hydrogen series components. So, I mean, everything we see from there is that basket is starting to look a bit more familiar. So this is a complete new ground up redesign and an introduction into the speaker system in general in hydrogen, right? So this is going to fit where in our lineup? This is going to be probably in the better lineup of our everyday listener, gearing toward a little bit more high energy output style audio.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely that, again, if we talk about the concept of good, better, best, and then we talk about the tiers of how we apply that, this really is that set of speakers. So this is for me, this would almost be the go-to for a daily listener starting point. It is available as it sits right now, 2-way passive component kit. So really, this is the line of hydrogen components. It is like you said, ground up, I don't even want to say redesign. This is a ground up new set of components. So again, the basket might look familiar. That is our custom tool basket that you're very familiar with the uranium stuff, 25 millimeter silk dome tweeter. However, it's chambered this time. So we kind of manipulate harmonics and frequency response by chambering the tweeter, which, love it or hate it, it makes mounting it a little bit more different than you're typically used to with a thin tweeter. However, there are reasons for it. Again, it goes back to the engineering concept of what Ground Zero does. So when we're looking at a blending point between a 6.5 and a tweeter in a 2-way component kit, we've got to do things a certain way to get those to behave properly together. And that, again, is really one of the strong points of Ground Zero and why this set of components is going to thrive.
Yeah. All right, let's get to her. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 10-inch, 1,000-watt thin subwoofer, measuring just over 4 inches tall. This is the new hydrogen SPL thin woofer. This is one of 2 in the world. This is where I'm super jacked right now, because this is going to give us big ported bass response in a teeny tiny package. So this is everything from the way that the basket was redesigned. Well, actually, I shouldn't say the basket is redesigned, but the motor structure has been completely redesigned, to the high excursion front with the large cone. This bad boy is badass. It's heavy, and extremely exciting. I think Tommy's a little upset that I get to play with him. So
Oh yeah, he's yes, 100%. He's jealous that you have it and he doesn't. But it's really one of the crazy things. When we got to that concept, that some of the focus on this driver is that concept of small enclosure. We look at what a lot of guys have done with traditional hydrogen subs in truck boxes, where we kind of utilize this to eliminate the thought process or maybe the necessity of a seat lift,
yeah.
or something along those lines. So we're giving guys the ability to utilize a sub of this caliber that is designed for this type of output style while maintaining musicality without the sacrifice of some of the other things that we've run into. So 0.5 cubic foot gross net is about the smallest we've really tried to run it in. If any of you guys were at Knowledge Fest in Vegas, we had a pair of these in a Vanderhall in a small vented enclosure. I think we calculated like 0.75 cubic foot net, if I remember correctly.
Combined of both, yeah.
And phenomenal. I mean, just absolutely one of the coolest builds that I've seen done in that platform. So it really does, again, give the retailer the ability to do things that they're familiar with, but get them out of their comfort zone on doing what the customer's asking for. The thing that we look at is, the whole concept of there's no replacement for displacement. But what happens if you don't have the ability for displacement? Where does that leave you as the retailer, or where does that leave you as the customer? And something like this that was designed for this purpose really does kind of give you, the retailer, that ability to say, oh, I've got you covered. And again, it goes back to that whole concept of ground zero. Nobody wants to say no to a customer, and we are doing everything we possibly can to make sure that happens.
Yeah. All right. And so I guess, you've seen our big subwoofers, you've seen our little subwoofers, you've seen our cool amps. We're going to talk about I would say the the better series when we're getting into the, it's like, how do I say that? It's like, this uranium is too good to be called better. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's almost like there's like a good and a best and a bester and a besterist.
Yeah.
Because the uranium series in general, is, when I hold up these speakers, when we talk about excitement, when we talk about touchy-feely, when we talk about, not just the way that the speakers sound, these things are phenomenal. Brand new ground up design, all new kind of machine basket that came out that now you're going to see is kind of familiar on the new hydrogen speakers, and probably you will see making its way down, the ranks as Ground Zero continues to grow. Completely new mid, a new 3-inch. It's everything from the color, even honestly the color scheme, the black with the rose gold. Is phenomenal. And when I talk about exciting, that's what this is. So not only does it sound amazing, it looks amazing. Neo magnets. There's a picture up there. That's the new Dome Mid, which, serves a purpose and fulfills a flavor for some people. But this speaker was really Ground Zero. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but this was really Ground Zero's, like, okay, we do high-end, hand built in Germany, machine this and this. Let's redo our mid market. Let's make our amazing piece even better, but still kind of relatable and attainable for, honestly, almost everyone, even if it's just an everyday listener. This, when it turns an SQ, these speakers are awesome, and their ground up, redesign of the Uranium series is extremely exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a set of speakers that I could talk about all day, and I can't because, there's a clock and it's yelling at us. But absolutely, ground up, redesign, entire new thought process. And it's not even things like, oh, it's a Neo motor. It's the highest quality of Neo available. So we don't have to worry about heat saturation. We don't have to worry about...
I didn't know there was different... You were the one who actually taught me that there was different grades of neodymium.
Oh, any metals, there's different grades of. So when you utilize like the highest of grades of Neo, you don't get, motor fade over time because the magnet loses its ability to control the driver. We used a different motor design than we ever have before. It's a larger coil than we're normally used to. So really, this entire set of speakers was us as the manufacturer getting out of their comfort zone and doing exactly, like what you say, for retailers to do. We had to do it. And it really did surprise all of us to a point that, other lines went under the knife because, like you said, when it's the bestest, it's hard to beat. So we can definitely get into more on that at any point in time. Feel free to reach out to Justin and he can talk your ear off about uranium. But it's really one of the coolest.
All you got to do is get it into a car, man. Like, that's it. It's very easy to put in. It's not an ungodly thick inch three. There's in our industry, there is a ton of very good speaker manufacturers. Okay, there is brands that have been doing it for a long time. As an installer, the rare thing that I have found in this industry is when you get to a certain level of speaker, the sound itself needs some massaging. Okay, if this makes sense, it's when you're at a dollar amount or a certain type of speaker, it's not a just put it in the car, let it rip, let's go, right? Because we need to be installing DSP, we need to be doing this with this. Very rarely have I gotten a chance, and I play with a lot of speakers, guys, to put something in a vehicle and say, right out of the box, with no tuning, with no frequency adjustments, just a basic double the FS crossover on the tweeter, not even investigating roll off anything. Very rarely have I put a speaker set in a vehicle and played a song and just stood back and said, wow. Right? So it's pretty, it makes me ecstatic because for us as installers, when we get to have that wow smile, we know the customer's going to have it, right? And we don't get that anymore. We've done it so much, things very rarely impress us, right? So to get that, it's exciting.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're at for product.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a good time to bring back.
Ooh, where are you?
I've been paying attention the entire time, guys. I've got a lot of notes here, but great presentation. I love the dialogue between JB1 and JB2. I think that's awesome. First of all, I should point out that you guys are both JB2. But on that note, I want to remind everybody, if you're looking for more information, you guys only literally scratch the iceberg as far as the lineup is concerned. You want to head over to the Ground Zero official website. You can visit groundzero.usa.com. You'll get all the information there, and check out the specs that they're referring to. Guys, how about I give you a quick break? We got another video to play. We come back. We're going to chat about everything we learned about today. How about that?
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Right. So I have a couple of notes, if that's okay with you guys. I want to start back at the beginning of the presentation. We started with talking about the new revamped Iridium series of speakers. And I think it was Jacob that was talking about how this is like entry into the street sound, the everyday listener. I'm going to make a comment right now. If this is your entry, I'm not sure if that's the right wording for it, because there's so many things going for it that aren't entry. And I want to point some of these things out that I noticed as a third party. I'm looking at the rubber casing around the magnet. I'm looking at the branded rubber casing around said magnet. What does that do for sound? Probably absolutely nothing. What does it do for perceived value? Everything. When you take components out of a box and you're sharing it with your customer and you're explaining them, this is what you're paying for, because once I install it, you'll never see this again. Let's remember that, right? We're putting in your car. You're not going to be touchy-feely on the basket. The fact that there's a logo that's cut out of the basket, the fact that the basket's even a color, which according to Ground Zero's website is a non-resonant type of paint that makes it have less, vibration, so on and so forth. Again, another selling point for a entry level or close to entry type product. The fact that there is design and embossed stuff going on the cone. Again, average speakers don't have these little points that I'm pointing out here. And I guess, and even the surround, not the surround, the trim or the gasket around the surround, embossed logo once again. So why am I saying all these things? I'm saying all these things because I want dealers to recognize the point that you're trying to make is that Ground Zero is a company, yes, engineering, like Jacob said, but make no mistake, there are a lot of added benefit features that they've built in to make it that much easier for you as a retailer to make this product stand out from maybe everything else that you might be selling. Thoughts?
Well,
What
and
he said.
right. Well, and again, it kind of goes back to something that I always say, and it's if they're in your shop, they're there because you're you. And as JB always points out, if I can get excited about a product, I'm going to hype that product. I'm going to talk about that product, even if it's the little things that I don't ever mention. Like you said, Ground Zero logos in strategic places that no one's ever going to see. It just brings that, if I'm excited about the little things, then that's my brand. So my brand is selling my brand. And as a retailer, it's amazing to be able to do that and know that, even just little things were taken care of. And at that point, we could have omitted that. We could have made it, possibly a little cheaper or something along those lines. But then at what point, like you had mentioned, Ben, does that awareness or that wait, really kind of moment come into play? And yes, it is our entry level, but that's not to say that, other brands that don't do these things are irrelevant or not good, because exactly as JB mentioned, everybody does something incredibly well for what their intended goal is. None of us are releasing product that we don't believe is correct. But what is going to set us apart is the little things. It's the attention to detail. It's the perceived value, and then the performance to be able to back it up. And
right.
So, like you said, it's just, little things like that.
So my comment on that is, if you are going to be a Ground Zero dealer, which I hope you are, absolutely put some in the board, but don't be shy to keep some out so people can touchy-feely play with this type of stuff, because I think there's a lot of merit there going on behind the cone, if you will. My next comment goes to the titanium line of shallow subs that we covered.
Yeah.
Man, this is a great looking set of shallow subs. I've seen some not so sexy shallow subs. I mean, they're shallow, great, and they look kind of funny, but really it looks like a truck rolled over them and they just pancaked the sub. These subs look like they got some meat to them, right? They got that shiny kind of brushed aluminum cone insert,
Totally.
right in the
large
front.
magnet,
The magnet
pleasing, audibly pleasing.
The rubber case with the, again, logo on it.
Yeah.
The binding post, the texture to the cast basket, all these little things, which I'm Jacob's like, wow, I'm happy Ben noticed these things.
Do you need a job?
No, I don't need one. No, absolutely not right now. But again, why am I pointing all this stuff out? It's my job to point these things out for dealers if they missed it. And if you're going to sell a shallow sub, it's probably because it's not your first choice. Let's be honest. You no replacement for displacement. If you can put the standard type sub in, you're going to get more output in the space that you have. If that first criteria is not available, then you have to look at your options, because your job is to make as much jam as possible in the environment that your customer is presenting to you. Great. If you go to these, I think there's a lot of talking points here.
Well, one thing that's super unique about this is, and this is what I want to urge dealers to know, is this sub bangs in a big box, in a 1.2 cubic foot box. This thin woofer hammers. All right, so let's take thin, tiny, small airspace out of the equation and think of a wagon or something that has those back pillars where you can build a funky, larger box. Maybe you still don't have that depth. You can't retain a 6, 7, 8 inch woofer, but you want that output, and you can put this in a side corner and you can build that box wide and you can port it and you can get the output of a standard 10 inch, 12 inch woofer with this thin woofer built to the specifications that Ground Zero provides you in the manual.
I think that's just another added value point if you're in that situation where maybe the customer is like, listen, well, is this gear that I can carry over to, maybe I'm in a pickup truck now, but I'm going to be in a hatchback? Like, yeah, we can, because check out these specifications. In this situation, we have to do it at this space. But yeah, if you want to pull it up, we can totally redesign it. So there's value there that it's kind of future proof.
There's no smoke and mirrors here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Everything is built. It's built for a purpose, and there's a reason, and it does what it's supposed to do.
Okay, let's talk about the hydrogen amps real quick. If you don't mind, Justin, pull up that was a 5-channel.
This is a 5-channel. Yeah.
All right. So that 5-channel, you know what? The hydrogen line, since the first time you guys came on and presented it, super slick, just clean design, nothing fancy, no bells and whistles that don't need to be there. What I'm impressed with is the size of that 5-channel and the power of that 5-channel. I think we had a comment in from Elias who wanted to point out the 1 ohm sub out on the 1 channel.
It's being that Ground Zero is not predominantly a North American company. Most amps or electronics produced for our North American market, like 1 ohm stable, is you actually generally see 1 ohm stable in like a lower price point style amplifier, not a higher end amplifier. But that's one thing that we noticed even with Sound Digital when we talked about that in Ground Zero, is they build amps for the rest of the world that dwarfs the amount of business that we do. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's why you look at, hydrogen woofers that are available in a dual 1 ohm or a dual 2 ohm configuration, because the rest of the world is not scared of 1 ohm stable. Right. For us, we tend to shy away from that in North America, and we move greatly. We're always,
we really don't breach that 2 ohm line very often, right?
But Ground Zero does it very well, and they're not afraid to it because they've developed it. It's stable. It's clean,
and it's on paper. Nice. Yes, please play me at 1 ohm.
Yes. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's what I wanted to know. Okay. So for me, yes, obviously the big yellow beast at the end is super cool. We had a chance to talk about it with Andy when we did bike as well. For me, what I feel is very, very cool about all the products is the new hydrogen set of components. And here's why. Dude, that looks way more expensive than it is. We don't need to talk about price, but we know that this is not uranium level, right? This was middle, I guess, hydrogen, middle-ish.
Bestest.
I don't remember what word you used, but you know what I mean? It's not there. It's there, okay? These look fantastic. The cast basket at this level, price point, again, with the rubber around, the whole thing just looks more expensive than I think than it is, which for me adds to what I just said in the beginning. Make sure if you're a retailer, have some of the stuff in a box for customers to touchy-feely. I don't say that for every brand that crosses through CMA. This is one of them that I would definitely recommend showing everything before you put it in. That's it. Don't even care how it sounds. These looks like they sound great before I even plug them in.
Well, that's, we all know that everybody judges with their eyes first. If it looks like it's cheap, the impression is it's going to be cheap. So when it performs well, then it's like, cool, I got a great value. The same can be true the other direction, though. If it looks overly expensive and under delivers, then you kind of go, well, now I see where the money went. And with any of our products, the biggest thing that you look at is everything is both sides of that coin. So, when you say things like, it's not here, it's here, that doesn't necessarily matter when it comes to Ground Zero, because we're going to put all of the pride and all of the effort and all of the engineering and all of the support into everything that we do, whether it's, custom tooling a cast basket or, custom developing a stamped steel basket. It doesn't matter. We know what we're trying to accomplish with the item, and being able to accomplish that appropriately is really the best thing. And, to say that it's not to the level of uranium when it comes to like fit and finish, it's an entirely different animal. And that's really the other cool thing, where you're not looking at uranium going, well, it's more expensive than hydrogen. Well, we're talking Chevy and Ford, they're not the same. So when you look at what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to do is where you get your value base. And for me, that's really important.
So 2 things. It's unfortunate we didn't get to see what the cone looks like on the face side of that woofer for the Hydrogen series.
I don't have them yet, Ben.
I know.
Can I disappear from camera for a second?
You could, yeah. You have one?
No.
Go get it. But here's my thing. I think, and I want Jacob to speak to that. I want to hear what you have to say, Justin, about it. It's not, how, like, I'm a little OCD, right? So when I'm on the sales floor, if I'm selling gear, I kind of like matching everything because, the whole tonally balance is meant to work with one another. So
yeah,
Jacob keeps referring to how that's not how Ground Zero necessarily works, whereby you could have said, series of amplifier, mix it with said speaker, mix it with said sub. So before we go there, talk to us about this cone. And are these efficient? Like, what's the power rating? What's the deal here?
So, I mean, like most of our daily listener type set of speakers, yes, it wants a little bit more power. It wants to go out and have fun. That's really the whole point in the Hydrogen line. So this is a unpressed paper cone, so it's going to maintain some warmth and neutrality. You had heard Justin when he was talking about uranium, he had mentioned a comment of it didn't require a whole lot of massaging. And the concept of our daily listeners, so if you look at titanium, if you look at hydrogen, and if you look at nuclear, they are all designed for that mentality. They require the least amount of work to blend appropriately, sound like it's supposed to work together. And basically at that point, when you utilize your DSP, you're utilizing your DSP to fine tune the issues, not to actually get it to sound good. And that is really one of the reasons why that concept of daily listener is so important, and being able to, as a distributor or as a manufacturer or even as a retailer, be able to know, okay, this product line is really geared towards this, and this is where my customer is going to steer me into that conversation. So yeah, it's really, it's not overly sensitive. We're not talking about a competition level product. It wants power. It wants to be able to.
That's not like an over 100 dB kind of rating speaker, right?
No, that's really few and far between. I mean, unless you look at two of our entire product lines, but that's for another day.
That's for another
day. And really just be able to, again, a little bit more oomph down low, a little bit more neutrality. There's less steering towards the concept of SQ. But again, when we look at the fact that it's a chambered tweeter, when we look at the fact that the passive crossover network is specifically designed for these two drivers, to be able to pull them into a way that sounds good in a vehicle without a whole lot of work, or if you're utilizing a DSP, get your gains and your levels right, and you're going to be pretty close right off the tip of the bat. So it's a cool series of components. And like I said, like Justin points out, that basket should look familiar.
You had me at that basket. That basket, though, when I see a custom formed basket signature, I start paying attention. That's just me.
And again, that was the thing that Ground Zero that we did when the speaker was designed was, I want something that I can put into other lines. I want something that I can utilize across the board when it comes to some of our speaker revamps. So, this is the new Ground Zero basket. And that's really cool because we've designed it to be versatile enough to handle, high-end SQ, high-end daily listener, mid-level SQ and daily listener. So really it's cool to be able to take the time, take the effort, and develop something that's as cool as this driver.
That's it. Those are my comments. I think you answered them famously. Other than the fact that, I'm going to make a comment. Uranium. Those are pretty sexy. I'm not gonna lie. That tiny neo magnet at the back is it's all there. You know what I mean?
Well, again, it all boils back to utilizing the proper, quality of equipment. Even when we look at, the little dome mid, the little
there you go.
5mm dome mid, there is no, there are no stones left unturned when it came to the development of this driver. And as Justin said, when it comes to dome mids, they're love them or hate them. It's like guys who run horns in SQ cars. You might not understand why they're doing it, but there's a very particular reason for it. And dome mids are kind of that same way, that when you get them right, they're difficult to beat.
Just for some clarity, Jacob, the uranium line, does that come with passive crossovers, or are these meant for active setups?
So the entire line is imported into the US and Canada as a la carte. Okay. And the reason we did that, and I think Justin can agree to the thought process, is when you're at that level, 99% of retailers are going to utilize a DSP.
99.9.
Okay, 99.9% of retailers are going to want to utilize a DSP. So,
or active filtering on an amplifier.
Exactly. So, why make you buy a passive? Now, that being said, there is a 2-way and 3-way passive crossover network available in that series of speakers, so that, let's say you want to run quasi-active 3-way. We got you covered. You want to run 3-way off a 2-channel because you're building you're utilizing some sort of a specialty build where maybe you are building a 3-way or 2-way pillar that would, benefit from a passive. So that way you're not utilizing discrete amplification or processing channels. We've got you covered. But at the same time, we're not saying you go out and buy, this component kit. You have to pay for the passive.
Right.
You're never going to use it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Makes sense. Jacob, we're going to wrap it up right there. I think we covered everything we want to cover. Thank you. Brilliant. And just can't thank you enough for making the time. As per usual, always welcome having you here on CMA.
Not a problem, guys. Anytime. You'll have a good one.
Take care, Jacob. Justin, we're going to wrap this up. Where's Justin? Let's bring Justin back. Justin, come back, Justin.
I'm here.
You're here?
I don't know why I'm not on.
There you are. Hey, Justin. All right. So, listen, we covered it top to bottom. My comments were, observational comments based on the presentation you did, and I just wanted to bring some insight to it. But at the end of the day, with BB Distribution, let's bring it up. You're in Canada. You're interested in these products, exclusively distributed by Justin and his crew at BB Distribution. What message do you have finally for dealers that you haven't already covered, especially having Jacob on, hearing my comments? Go.
Yeah, I mean, like we kind of talked about it, right? So brand loyalty goes a long way in our country, right? There, when you talk to certain, dealers, I've been a Focal dealer for 20 years. I've been a Rockford dealer. I've been a JL dealer. Like, these brands have been prevalent in North America for a really long time. The only message I can say is, like, don't be scared to look at something new, right? What if no one chose to take a chance on a Tesla, right? There wouldn't be this giant evolution in the EV market. It's the same thing with Ground Zero. Yes, Ground Zero is new to North America, but it is not new in what it does. It is very refined at what it does. It is very good at what it does, and it has North American roots. So it's that's the biggest message is don't be scared to pick up the phone and call us and ask a question, or maybe look this way instead of that way when you're dealing with something, and don't have to ever say no to the customer, and know that Ground Zero's got you covered and got your back for sure.
And you know what? Maybe get a leg up on the competition by bringing in a line that obviously has got a lot of backup, a lot of innovation, and maybe that the shop down the street hasn't heard of yet.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Absolutely. On that note, Justin, go Oilers. Thank you for coming on for the presentation.
Thank you. Absolutely.
That was a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
See you later, man.
I want to thank Justin, both JBs, Justin and Jacob, for coming on today and sharing with us all these great details about Ground Zero. Now, for some good news, we've got a contest going on. If you haven't been on our Facebook page, definitely get over there. We are running an exciting contest with 5-Axis Innovations for a chance for a shop to win a free custom interactive sound damping display. 5-Axis Innovation, known for custom interactive displays, they're giving you one free. They'll customize it with your shop name, put whatever sound dampening material that you want on it, and ship it to your shop so that you can enjoy one of these. All you got to do, make sure you get over to our Facebook page, follow the instructions, like the CMA page, like 5-Axis page, and drop your shop name and where you're located down in the comments. We'll be doing the draw on Wednesday, June 8th, on our very next roundtable session. I want to encourage you to continue tuning in to CMA Networks as we are deep into the car audio sessions, at least for the Group A. We'll be going through right until Friday, May 27th, featuring the premier brands that you see there on the screen. And lastly, make sure you visit our website, cmanetworks.com, totally revamped, where you can search for all the great videos that we do, either by brand, by category, or even your favorite trainer. Go ahead and hit up both Jacob and Justin, as they have profiles on there that include a library of all the great videos that we've done together. That's it. Thanks for tuning in to this CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
you know
it.
what today's the day where I'm gonna go
Yo.
shopping.
Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to Sirius XM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on Sirius XM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?